Somebody came out of the audience, just right at me, a stranger, and I didn't remember them, but they said, "You worked for Anadot last year." And this person had seen me exactly a year ago for about 10 minutes, that was all. And that person remembered me and then remembered the company I worked for. And that is what it's all about, in my opinion, is to leave lasting impressions and to be above average, because I think you'd probably agree with me that average is not good enough.
Yeah, I am not a fan of average at all. Because to me, if you're doing something average, it's almost like, why do it? If you can't exceed expectations and really, whether it's a service that you're providing or something that you do, you're just going to blend in. And I don't know anybody that's an entrepreneur or has an entrepreneurial spirit that wants to blend in. So welcome back to the Professional Rule Breaker podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Walterhouse. And before we start, I just want to say, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button because you don't want to miss all the juicy things and all the fun things that we do. And like I have said before, it's all about creating an impact for you so that you can have more income. So today we have a really fun podcast for you. My guest is an international audience engagement expert. And I know you're probably thinking, what the heck is that? Well, we're going to be talking about that. He's also a virtual speaker. He's an event producer. He specializes in creating 3D interactive experiences online and in person. And he has a background as a professional magician, a speaker, and a coach. And he offers a unique ability to combine multiple skill sets to enhance any event. So I want to welcome my friend, Ken Sky. And oh my goodness.
A little podcast intro music. Too much. Hi, Kathy. It's so good to see you. And I've been looking forward to being on your show. Thank you so much for having me.
So good to see you too. And I have to say, for anyone that's listening, you're going to have to go see the video that's on YouTube and on some of our other channels as well, because he is the master when it comes to visuals. And he did a really cool visual just opening. Actually, Ken, I'm going to go ahead and let you describe the visual.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for the big compliment. The visual that you would have seen on YouTube right now is an animated business cartoon character who walks across my screen to reveal me, basically, to the world and to your audience right now.
It is really just such a fun thing, and it is so eye-catching, and I would say memorable. So, and don't we all want to be memorable?
You know what? I believe that deep down inside we do want to be memorable in a nice way, because there's memorable for the wrong reasons, and there's memorable because people really resonate with you. And it brings back to memory a story I recently experienced. And if you like, I can share that very briefly.
Please. I want to hear it. Tell us all the juicy details.
Last year, I went to Toronto to present at the AWS Summit, which is the Amazon Web Services Summit. And I represented a client as a speaker, using magic as a metaphor, but to present their products and services and benefits to the groups that walk by the booth. That's one of my business services. And this year I was representing a different client, but as I'm presenting there, and I just finished my mini presentation, they're only about 10 minutes at a time, and then I wait a few moments, let the salespeople talk to the people that I just attracted to the booth, and then I do it again later. Somebody came out of the audience, just right at me, a stranger, and I didn't remember them, but they said, "You worked for Anadot last year." And this person had seen me exactly a year ago for about 10 minutes. That was all. And that person remembered me and then remembered the company I worked for. And that is that is what it's all about, in my opinion, is to leave lasting impressions and to be above average, because I think you'd probably agree with me that average is not good enough.
Yeah, I am not a fan of average at all. Because to me, if you're doing something average, it's almost like, why do it? If you can't exceed expectations and really, whether it's a service that you're providing or something that you do, you're just going to blend in. And I don't know anybody that's an entrepreneur or has an entrepreneurial spirit that wants to blend in. I know I don't, and I know you don't. That's for sure. Uh, so, so let me ask you this, because there was something that I read, and it was about adaptability. Is when you achieve your dreams and you have it taken away immediately. I want you to tell me about that, because I know that there is a story behind that somehow.
You know what? There is a story there. And to give you the full experience here, I'll blend in some music to make it even more
Oh my
true.
goodness. Wow.
So, and in case you're listening, I do this in real time here. I bring the music in, but I always had this dream of being a full-time entrepreneur before I turned 30. That was my dream, and it took me more than a decade past that, without going into details of age here, before I could finally say goodbye to my side job and embrace the entrepreneurial spirit and do this on my own. And I had this client. I got to perform in Las Vegas. It was February of 2020. I came back, and you could probably imagine what happened after that. All my calendar basically vanished into thin air. And I had been exactly on my own for 3 weeks before everything was taken away from me. And I did not want to go and find a 9 to 5. I'm like, I'm here. I finally made it. I cannot go back. And something's gotta change, and something's gotta give, or we're gonna go bankrupt. I was dedicated. I'm like, I'm all in. Let's do this. And I immediately explored Zoom as an option to keep presenting and communicating my message. And the first couple of ones were not great, Kathy. They really weren't. I mean, I have a real hard time even seeing a recording of that now. But it is those recordings, it's those presentations I did that ultimately landed me where I am now. And it was a journey. But what really made the difference was I did not settle for average. A lot of my colleagues either threw the towel or took a well-deserved vacation. I mean, why not, right? There was nothing to do anyways. But I spent probably 14, 16, 18 hours a day, minus sleep, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, just trying to figure this thing out. I'm like, there's gotta be a way where I can show up in a way where it just looks nice, where it sounds nice, and where all the things kind of work like magic, because that's what I am after all. In my past life, I'm a magician, so I wanted to find a way to just stand out from the crowd, because it was just a sea of sameness. And I did not want to be a blockbuster. I wanted to be a Netflix. I wanted to be somebody that adapted. And it was, not sure who said the original quote, but it's most famously contributed currently to Charles Darwin, who said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive. It's not even the most intelligent." And I always said, there's hope for me. But it is the ones most adaptable to change. And that was it for me. I thought, you know what? I gotta do what I gotta do. And because I didn't give up and because I was adaptable, I was able to create what you currently see.
Wow. Now that is profound. I mean, it really is. It's almost
Thank you.
like a mic drop. Profound. So, and I think, and you probably agree with me, as entrepreneurs, you have to be adaptable. You have to be willing to make those pivots. And the other thing too that you brought up, but you didn't really mention is like for you, you did what it took to get you to the other side. And I think any successful entrepreneur, that's what you do. You set whatever it is, where you want to go, and you make it happen. You do everything in your power to make it happen. I actually call it, like for me, I make things a non-negotiable is what I do. That it doesn't matter what happens all around me. If everything is blowing up, with whatever it is that I have set up as my non-negotiable, you can like bring it to the bank because it is going to happen. And I think with that mindset, it's super important. And I think you have that exact same mindset because you knew you didn't want to go back to corporate and you knew you were going to make it work, and you definitely have made it work. So, my gosh, it's such a treat to have you. I'm so excited to have you here today. I really am.
Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate that.
Uh, so, you know, I find, and you use this word, I think, in your logo or something like that, but captivating. Why is it more important than ever that we be captivating for our audience, for our target market?
Have you heard that the attention span of a human is shorter than that of a goldfish?
I
I'm not sure if
haven't.
this is 100% true, and it's probably not one of those absolute truths that applies to every single person. But if you think, just, I mean, even if you're listening right now, you could do this little exercise. Just, what are you doing while you're listening to this? Are you driving? Are you actually sitting and listening? Are you watching this? Or if you were watching this on YouTube, what are you doing beside listening to this? We are so focused on so many different things, or sometimes so little focused on the things that we are that is our main task. And I'd love to ask you this question, Kathy. If you had a budget of $10,000, let's just say as an example,
Okay.
and you had the choice to invest that money toward a billboard in downtown where you live, or toward upgrading your Zoom presence, where
Mm.
would you spend that money?
I think for me, I would do the Zoom presence because the people that are on the other side of the Zoom are my actual either current customers or potential customers versus a billboard is everybody. It's not specific and it's average, quite frankly, in many
E-
cases.
And even if it was your right fit clients driving by that billboard, you'd still be better off spending it on your Zoom presence. And here's why. People want to be invited into a story. And our human brain is conditioned to two main functions. Number one is to survive and thrive. That goes all the way down to the cave times. Like, we want to survive and we want to thrive. Even if let's say I'm a waiter and I'm giving you an extra refill of coffee, am I doing that just to be nice? Well, there's a small chance if you're a nice person. But deep down in your brain, you could look at it this way: I'm giving you an extra refill of coffee so that you will like me when the barbarians come around the corner and you'll fight for me and help me survive. I mean, it's rooted subconsciously to that level. So the first
Mhm.
thing we want to do is survive and thrive. And the second thing we want to do is, do you know what it is? Preserve
Mm.
calories. We want to do as
Oh,
little as possible
interesting.
to succeed. So what that means is, I want, if you're going to be I'm just saying you as an example, if let's say Acme Services is offering something, is trying to sell me something, I want that to be as easy as possible for me to buy into. I do not want to work hard to learn why is this good for me. If and the more I have to work for it to understand. So let's say we run into each other at a party somewhere.
Hmm.
And I say, so what do you do? And this person that represents Acme says, well, it's complicated. I'm already done. I know what is not complicated is for me to get to the bar and get some bacon strips or a drink. That's not complicated for me. That's easy. I can thrive. If I'm gonna have to invest maybe 20 minutes now to try to understand what you do, I'm out. You're not gonna get me as a client. And the billboard, for example, that would basically be a waste of money because people do not buy, they don't buy into that's your story and why they don't see themselves in the story that you can where you can help them by driving by a billboard. It just doesn't work anymore. It's basically brand awareness to a certain point where you see a logo maybe and you might see it somewhere else, but really that's not where you make it. You don't go buy a billboard and say, hey, I need to buy that teeth whitener. It's probably not happening that way.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. No, that's a really great
It's a strange
example.
answer to a question you asked that you asked
No,
about
it's all good.
captivating.
No,
And
again, thought
yeah,
provoking. Who knew that this podcast was going to be so thought provoking?
and
No, that's great.
educational apparently, right?
It is.
But
Absolutely.
hey, we were
Absolutely.
allowed to break the rules on this podcast, right?
We are going to be breaking some rules. And I know you're a rule breaker. So let me ask you this question, because you talk about the Michelangelo effect or Michelangelo mindset. Tell me what you mean by that.
Sure. When Michelangelo was asked, how did you create the angel in the marble? He answered this. He said, well, I saw the angel in the marble and I carved until I set it free.
Ooh, okay.
And it wasn't a matter of, is there an angel in the marble? The angel was in there. It was just a matter of removing the things that don't belong to the angel. And that applies to the Michelangelo mindset basically says that inside of you is that perfect version of you that you want to be. It's already in there. It's not a matter of can you be it. It's in there. But there's a big chance that there's a lot of things in the way currently. And a lot of times we think about I need to get more. I need to learn more. I need to do this. I need to get more in order to be more. When so often the answer is to remove the things that are already there but that are in the way. When it comes to Zoom presentations, for example, I noticed what got in the way was just horrible Zoom presentations that put me to sleep. Bad virtual backgrounds. I mean, take the ocean with the palm tree. That is as little as that is something that gets in the way of a real connection on Zoom. And people always told me in the beginning, said, "Oh, you can't really have connections on Zoom." Yes, you can. I
Yeah,
have
you
seen
can.
one of my clients do a sales presentation, and he was in tears, and the whole entire audience was in tears by his sales presentation because we removed the things that were in the way. And so it's a tough question to ask, but if you are able to ask those questions or have people that are in your true inner circle tell you what is something I should change to make this more connectable, to be more captivating, then sometimes by just removing a few things, you can have a lot more impact and be more captivating. Captivating, by the way, I love the definition of it is to charm. It's not
Mhm.
forcing down something on somebody, but it's to really draw them in to your world.
And doesn't that make everything so much easier when you
So much
captivate
easier.
someone? Because otherwise, all you're doing is pushing things onto people. Rather, when you captivate, you draw people into your world. And
That
I
is
would,
so true.
everything about it is, there's the other word, charisma. That people that have charisma, they basically draw people into them. They're kind of similar in a kind of a weird way, because you can be captivating by having charisma and drawing, people to you, and you're memorable because we're all about being memorable, especially in this particular podcast. And you're really amazing to help people be memorable and captivate. But
Thank
that's
you.
really what it is you're drawing people to you. So then it's I was going to use the term self-promotion, but it's not self-promotion. Like it's like it takes that step out. If you're captivating, you don't have to sit there and promote and promote and promote yourself, because people are already going to be curious about you and they're going to probably look you up. They'll want to find out more about you as well. I mean, don't you think?
I have a little story that will verify what you just said, and this is what happened to me from that moment where I was devastated finding out that all
Mhm.
my events were canceled to me showing up and doing my first virtual event. And I can share that story briefly if you like.
Sure, absolutely.
And so when I finally had figured out, oh, this is the type of microphone I need, this is the type of camera I need, so I can do things like this, where I show something up front and the camera focuses on my hand. For example, right now, if I take my hand away, the camera focuses back on my face. Or whether it's something else that I hold up an object, which by the way, you can't do if you use a virtual background. It's either like your hand is cut off at the risk and you're because the Zoom is trying to decide what do I need to show, what don't I need to show. But when I had this figured out and I showed up in some meetings, online events, every single person would private would there was always somebody that would private message me saying, "Hey, what camera are you using? What microphone are you using? Can we talk?" And so I started filling my days just helping people, and never even it didn't even occur to me to ask them for money. It was like, oh yeah, I was so happy that I got to
Mhm.
share the things that I had learned until one person said, "Oh, I'm going to send you some money, and here's what I'm going to send you." And then I figured, "Oh, wait a minute, there's value here. Like he puts a price tag on the value that I just offered." So I built a business on this, and that same person then said, "Could you also do a full Zoom event?" And when I met the CEO of the company at the time to discuss the details, I asked him, "What are your challenges?" And every point he had, I would respond with, "Okay, here's what I would do in that case." And he just loved every single bit I did. But the most beautiful part is he offered me probably about 10 times more for the fee and apologized for lowballing me than what I would have asked for. And so I really recognize the value, and it's important to have a great message, to do something that moves, that helps people, that
Mhm.
has an impact on the world. And I love working with people who have a positive vision like that. But it's how you tell your message that I learned is so important, because people directly perceive value based on how you show up. And that's how I got into this whole journey to begin with. And I built a six-figure business in 6 months from nothing.
Wow.
One, because I was adaptable. Two, because I changed the way I showed up and I wasn't comfortable. I didn't settle for average. And to be captivating, I'm just going to connect this as well. You said it's not self promotion, but it's drawing people in. And that to me is a direct reflection of your brand. And I've been to different meetings, different webinars. I've seen different classes online. And then sometimes people would say, "Hey, is this?" "Yes, it is you." I knew it because I saw the your background, and it kind of stuck out at them just in the gallery view. And it's just part of you. You can make that your brand. So you can either be the person that is this poorly photoshopped version in video form behind this ocean with the palm tree or the San Francisco Bridge, very common too, or you can show up real and authentic. And by the way, I have some thoughts about AI as well, if that's of interest.
There's always so many things we could talk about. We could absolutely talk about AI if you want to delve into that just briefly, because that's such a hot topic right now. I think AI is amazing. It can be helpful, but it can also make you average.
I would very briefly, I'm just going to make this observation. With the amount of tools that are coming out to make AI videos, animations, and everything,
True.
my prediction is that people will long even more for an authentic, real video presence of a person. And now is the time to really think about that. How do you show up? Forget the virtual backgrounds, because in the end, it just looks like you're hiding something under a rug. I mean, that to me is what it represents, because I know you might show up and there might be no clutter visible, but I'm like, what are you trying to hide?
Hmm.
So the best thing I believe that you can do to authentically show up is just to use your real background, clean up a little bit if you have to, but show up. And if you have a mess, then bring that to the table. But I think that's probably still better to organize a little bit and show up authentically and really connect and focus on connecting with people than to have the most perfect animated video of you communicating your message.
No, I totally agree. Actually, for me, I would have to say when I go on a Zoom and I don't mind the backgrounds at all because sometimes they're kind of interesting. But the one that I particularly don't like is the one where it basically makes everything cloudy behind you. That it's like you are in a cloud and all you see is your face. And as you move, then every once in a while you get like a little glimpse of something.
Mm.
That one, I get so distracted with that one because I don't know what it is. It's kind of like I'm looking at them because they're kind of like a talking head. And then every once in a while you see this glimpse of something in the background. So yeah, no, I can totally appreciate where you're coming from. And for those folks that have that and that use that, I highly recommend that you contact my friend Ken because he can definitely help you with all of that. And for the people that are watching, not listening, you can see the beautiful background that he has. That is just it's captivating, Ken.
Well, thank you, Kathy. And I believe what you were describing is what I call spatial disorientation. And it's
Mm,
when I can't place you in a proper environment because of the blur that you mentioned, then I'm disoriented as to where you find yourself in space. And by the way, the worst thing is to be on your phone with a virtual background and walk. I mean, that is just like literally this body flopping all over the place. Like I don't know where top or bottom is anymore. And that causes mistrust.
hmm absolutely. Mistrust and you can't focus. Like it causes a lack of focus because you just can't focus on what they're saying as
It's definitely
well.
something that gets in the way of that
Mhm.
beautiful angel.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So let me ask you this because I know you're already one. What makes you a rule breaker?
What makes me a rule breaker, I believe, is pushing and testing limits in a positive way. And during the pandemic, I heard a lot from, oh, our company is special. We can't do Zoom. And guess what? They could do Zoom when they had to. But then the second criteria was, oh, but we're gonna keep it like to a webinar. We don't want to see people's faces. But the thing is, people are most engaged when they feel seen, when they feel heard. So I kept pushing these things and breaking these rules for companies. And when they got a taste of it, they really saw that, yes, there's a lot more here than we thought. So I think a rule breaker is, or what makes me a rule breaker is just by making things a little different. I've never really that this whole thing about being average. I never liked that. Even back in my previous life as an educator, I would always try to find a moment to bring a surprise element into it. And on Zoom, that's very easy. But even in real life, I would. Here's an anecdote. Back in the day when my first career was, I was an educator and I taught a class, and I told the students, "Oh, put your books away. We're gonna do an exam." And everybody was in shock, like, "What? No, we didn't." Especially the keeners. They're like, what's happening? They were freaking out. I said, oh, just kidding. We're actually gonna have a playtime, and you can go out and do your free. You can read a book or something. And but just to do things that throw people off guard, because that's when they become curious. And we all know we learn best when we're curious. The moment we are, if we're angry or frustrated, we can't be curious and we can't learn. So curiosity is a big factor to learn and to grow. And we can also not grow if we're not uncomfortable. So I believe the rule breaking was always, what can I do well, that's not how we used to do it. Why not? Like, give me a good reason why we can't do it this way, and to sort of just challenge, how do we present? How do we present on Zoom? How do we interact with business people? If it's a trade show or if it's an online virtual event, find ways to kind of push the envelope and do things. I mean, especially with Zoom, to do things that Zoom wasn't able to do, and that really got the attention. And I believe overall, it's just been a mindset of mine ever since I grew up to do things just a little differently.
I love that. All of that just kind of warms my heart. It really does because that's what being a rule breaker is all about is doing something different because in business, you'll want to stand out. And I actually make it a point before I meet with someone that, is a prospective client of mine. I think about, okay, what can I do that will be different than anyone else that they have ever experienced? And I try to come up with a couple things. And I have to say, with you, you're like the master of that. Definitely the master of that. There's like so many just cool things that you can help a lot of people that are out there that are listening to this podcast to really stand out. And then that way, they're going to be different and they're going to be memorable and they're going to be captivating. They're going to do all of those things in really an easy way. And I just have to let everybody know that sometime in the future, you're going to see my background and everything change too. So just kind of
I'm
put
so
that.
looking forward to being there on the journey with you for that, because I know it's going to be awesome.
Oh my gosh, yes. So yeah, so be on the lookout for something different in the future. So Ken, I want to ask you, where can people find you?
Well, I am literally everywhere online these days, but here's a couple of places. So I'm putting a QR code on the screen, and I'll have the link for you as well. But this is basically my main website is kensky.com, KENSKY.com, and I would say sky is limitless. And the second place you can find me is, oh, and here's a little present for you and your audience. This is it's a little video tutorial that I created, and it's all about how to get more leads on LinkedIn, how to easily and in a memorable way get connections on LinkedIn. And that QR code is up here right now, and I'll share that link with you as well. And those would be the places to find me. I mean, if you're LinkedIn, I'm there as well as Ken Sky. I believe
That's
Ken Sky
fantastic.
Unlimited is my username, but you'll see the man with the purple shirt. That will be me.
It's all about branding. It's absolutely all about branding. So we're going to have all that information in the show notes. And I'm so happy that we were able to have you on the podcast. And maybe what we'll do is we'll have you back on the podcast when my background changes, and we'll do some fun things
Oh yeah,
at
that'll
that
be fun.
time. Yeah, absolutely. Because I know you're the master of that as well too. But before we sign off, I just want to talk to everybody that's out there listening or watching, because Ken said some things that were really important. He said, how do you show up? And for everybody that's out there, I want you to think about that, because you truly, truly are unique. And you need to think about something else he said, the Michelangelo mindset, where Michelangelo basically took things away from that giant block of marble. So, what are those things that you are kind of holding in front of you that you are blocking your true, authentic self out there that is just going to captivate the people that come into contact with you? So, again, just remember you are really special. And it's important for you to be out there. And I know if you've been listening for a while, you've heard me say it's all about the ripple effect, where you throw a stone into a body of water, into a lake or a stream, and you see all the ripples. So, what ripples can you do to make a big difference in your life, the life of your family, and also just around the world? What can you do to make a big difference in the world? Because again, you are super unique. So thank you again for joining us for this podcast. And I want to give a very special thank you to my guest, Ken Sky. And again, please be sure to check him out. This man can help you be captivating.
Thank you so much for having me, Kathy. It was a real pleasure.
You're welcome.